It has been said by outspoken MP Dennis Skinner that David Cameron has done more to divide this nation than any other Prime Minister in history. Certainly this could be seen as true as on the debating of Brexit and the In campaign, and with a time now that we all should be united over the corruption of the Tories, now we have another force trying to divide our nation. Who is it? Coming up next. We are now at a stage when far-right groups in the country are now jumping on the bandwagon of dividing the country. One group in particular stating that they denounce democratically elected Muslims as occupiers who are trying to take over our political system. Now, considering the definition of occupier is, and I quote, a member of a group that takes possession of a country by force. Now, as soon as they were elected in, I'm not sure if that actually constitutes as force. I might be wrong. They also stated that people should stand by for a flurry of direct operations with threats of violence and harassment. Now, it seems strange, doesn't it, that these groups seem to be aimed at a better Britain, but don't seem geared toward outing a corrupt government. Threatening politicians in their personal life, which in turn creates fear, intimidation, and feeding the already raging fire of racism. I say again with the use of fear, but doesn't the government do this? David Cameron did this over the Third World War claim on his In campaign. So what makes these groups better than an already over-corrupt government? Is it really in fact making a better Britain? I question these tactics. When this group in particular is mentioned, we glance open-mouthed and say how appalled we are at their past history and actions. That said, you wouldn't associate this group with Christians, so why should we tarnish honest Muslims with this nasty group? We hear comments from Islamic groups like this and they are seen as terrorists. So, need I comment further on that? Far-right groups are creating the divide, as is the government, taking to the streets in threatening behaviour, but this is what the government want. We are now taking our eyes off the prize, and this is distracting us from what is really out there. Tarnishing a religion with the same views as the minority, in my view, is wrong. This kind of behaviour should worry us, and worry us a lot. The far-right groups against Muslims are insinuating that we are being overrun and our country is being occupied by Muslims. It was stated on a Facebook page of a far-right group that by 2050 this country will be full of Muslims. Now, bearing in mind that as of 2011 the percentage of Muslims for the entire population stood at only 4.5%. However, take London for example. In some parts of London, half the population of the city are now Muslims. But take a look at this graphic. Now the numbers look quite high and they could to some appear worrying, but if you do the math, over the past 25 years this equates to 1,576 Muslims per week, either through birth or immigration, which is a figure that could appear to be less worrying, if in fact you are worrying. So Muslims are not exactly taking over. Now go back to the Paris terrorist attacks, and a far-right group held a national conference in Sheffield where they passed a policy to ban the religion Islam within the United Kingdom and all its associated practices. Now there is evidence that the KKK is practicing in the UK, with news reports documenting the name Christian Identity. So should we be having a conference to ban this religion as well as its associated practices? Everyone in this country has and should have a right to demonstrate, but when it starts to get less than peaceful, it becomes a problem, and I'm talking about both sides. There has been at the beginning this year a backlash against some Muslims, what some Muslims see as Islamophobic stigmatism. Many have campaigned against the government's prevent agenda, which calls on communities to report suspected terrorist sympathisers. But we have the right to know if there are extremists dangerous to the society we live in. In my view, Muslims may not be doing themselves any favours by going against this. Why wouldn't you want to out someone of this mindset? Former Equalities Chief Trevor Phillips sparked outrage some time ago by stating some Muslims will always remain apart, saying it may be that they see the world differently to the rest of us. Now that's quite a bold statement. I know I might see the world differently to someone else. We all do, don't we? I don't support or condone any extremist views of any kind, no matter which group they come from. But what also worries me is we are taking our eye off the prize. These groups on both sides are so preoccupied with fighting against each other, we are forgetting the corrupt government and fishing out the extremists for these groups and holding them up for what they are. We should be trying to end terrorism in all its outlets, and again this includes the governments as well, not just members of factions like ISIS. Let me know if you agree with the comments, give me the thumbs up, give me your comments in the boxes below and give me your opinion. Thanks for watching, click subscribe and I'll see you next time.